Okay, for the next section, you need your 3 bearing holders. You need your limit switch trip that will be mounted on to the rails. You need your X limit switch and the X limit switch bracket. Now the first thing to go on will be one of the bearing holders. You'll need your M3 8mm screws for this, and you want to leave these slightly loose for now. Back it off just half a turn. Now on this one, you only want to put in the back bolt for now, because the part fan is going to be held in place by the front bolt. For the limit switch mount, you'll actually need to have 14mm bolts instead of the 8mm. And before we mount that on, we're going to put the limit switch into the bracket, line up those holes on the bottom, thread those in. Again, that does not have to be over tightened, so you don't strip out the plastic. And then finish by hand tightening. That will get mounted here, lining up with the bracket. First I will insert the 14mm bolts. Now from the squish on the bottom of the bed, those might be tight. Just thread them through. Go. And then back it off just a little bit so that it can float. Okay, we're now ready to mount the carriage onto the printer. So you can line up the bearings for the back. Pop that into place, line up the bearing for the front, pop that into place, run it back and forth a couple times just to make sure that everything lines up. You also want to take your trip and pop that onto the rails. That will snap very snug on there. It's not really going to move, but I do recommend using an M4 bolt to lock it in place. Then once it's started, just finish the last bit by hand so that it's snug, and that is not going to move. Okay, the next bracket to assemble or to mount onto the carriage will be the belt clip bracket. So you can And slide that underneath, line up the holes. And this one can be tight. So that glides nice and smooth. Now what you want to make sure is that when you bring this all the way over, the belts are going to be parallel to each other. And the belt clip does not raise the belt up. That means we have this pulley at the right level. So those belts will stay parallel all the way to the home position. So it looks like we got that lined up perfectly. Next thing you'll want to do is put in the limit switch cable, which will mount to the middle front slot. And it will clear the pulley, so you don't have to worry about that. The very final thing, we'll rotate this around just to the front again, will be to put on the part cooling fan and the part fan. The fan will just slide on and snap into place. So that's nice and solid. Now, before you mount this, after it's 3D printed, you may have to ream this out just to make sure that you don't have a lot of pressure on there to crack it. You can do that by putting an M3 bolt, chucking it up into a drill, and just ream it out. There we go. Now as you slide this over the end, it will be a very snug fit. But that bolt hole will line up exactly, and then you can mount the final bolt in there. Snug that down nice and tight, and it won't crack the holder. The fan then plugs in to the far back right corner. And there is your extruder assembly, ready to go.